exactly 1 week ago today, 183,000 people were infected of the novel coronavirus. That has been the largest single-day increase, according to the World Health Organization. And today, the coronavirus rate is nearing 10 million infected people globally, with almost 500,000 people dead because of the disease. Currently, South America, and especially the continent's population giant, Brazil, roughly 200 million people, is the epicenter of the disease, which has restructured the global political, economic, and social mantle with severe consequences. The old continent, Europe, whose peak is almost over, is gradually reopening. And one of the countries is Belgium, which is equally the seat of European institutions. So, decisions by governments across the world to reopen their economies after almost 3 months of lockdown, scientifically advised or politically motivated. Stéphane, welcome to GLOBEWATCH.
Thank you, welcome, Charles.
The European peak of the coronavirus is almost over globally, of a disease which has infected roughly 10 million people now and has killed almost 500,000 others. What is the statistical data in Belgium today?
The main peak is over in Belgium and the rest of Europe. That peak was actually reached quite early in the pandemic. It was at the end of March or early April that we reached the peak. At that time, we had 600 people entering hospitals in Belgium every day. We had up to 300 people dying every day from the disease. At the moment, we have only between 5 and 10 deaths related to COVID every day. The figure is decreasing day by day. We have only 20 persons entering hospitals every day, and we only discover about 100 new cases every day, compared with thousands of cases discovered every day, I would say, 2 months ago now.
When you look at the mortality rates in terms of population comparison, Belgium is the most affected country in the world of a population of roughly 11 million citizens. Can you explain to me why the mortality rate in a country like Belgium is the highest?
Yes, we have so far had 9,700 deaths related to COVID, which is exactly, it's as you said, is very high. It's among the highest ones. It's linked to the fact that Belgium is a very densely populated country, highly urbanized, and strongly connected to the outside world. So when the pandemic reached Europe, we had directly cases entering Belgium. We had no one single zero case. We had so many coming from all over Europe, Italy, but other countries, they were all coming to Belgium at the same time. So we were quite strongly infected quite early when the pandemic reached Europe. Another reason why Belgium was quite badly affected is that we have a quite highly percentage of the population which is aged, and you know that aged people are especially sensitive to this virus, and they are especially subject to mortality because they have other problems already. So with the high number of elderly people in our country, and also the fact that in Belgium many of them spend the last years of their life in nursing homes, which proved to be clusters actually for the dispersal of the coronavirus, we had a very high mortality rate among these more aged people. About 90% of all deaths related to COVID actually were people aged 65 or over. But if you may allow me to go a little further in the analysis, our figures are also very high because we were one of the only countries in the world not only to report the deaths in the hospitals and the deaths of people who had been tested positively for COVID, but also because we reported in our figures all the deaths which were suspected to be linked to the virus, and especially those in the nursing homes where all these older people are, where there were very little actually tests that were made. We had many people dying. But in other countries, all these deaths were not reported in their official figures. So that's also one of the main reasons why the figure was so high in Belgium. Actually, we consider that if we had not reported the suspected cases in our official figures, we would have a figure, an official total would probably be around 2/3 of our figure.
One of the key features of the Belgian society is that you are basically somehow a diplomatic economy, because the seat of the European institutions, most of them, the Commission, are based in Brussels. The Brussels airport itself receives 6 million passengers per year. It should be the 24th busiest airport in the whole of Europe. The geography of Belgium impact the avalanche of the coronavirus cases.
Especially, yes, it's true. The geography, the fact that we are in the middle of Europe, that we are the capital of Europe, and that we have the seat of the European institutions on our territory. We have so many diplomats, probably one of the cities in the world with the highest number of diplomats.
Well, movements is constant. It's difficult to limit movements.
So we have always been for yes, the liberalization of movements, and still at the moment we are quite open towards the travelers. Yes, so it was impossible to completely avoid the infection, and then we had, of course, to...
How did that impact your lockdown policies? Because possibly you have to manage diplomats from this European Union Commission and all other institutions. NATO headquarters is equally based in Belgium. All these movements from the military, from the political, from the economic, how did you succeed to manage the lockdown policy in a country like Belgium with such strategic diplomatic value?
Basically, they had to follow the same rules as the other ones. When the country was in lockdown, when the people had to stay at home and to limit the number of people they were seeing, when they had to stay at home and work from home, all these rules were also applied to the diplomatic community. This time as well, maybe we come later to the travel restrictions still applied to travel to and from Belgium. Diplomats from outside the EU are still allowed to travel to Belgium for official reasons, not to take a holiday in Brussels, but if you have a Cameroonian diplomat having to go for a mission to Brussels, he's allowed to do so. And he doesn't have to follow a quarantine of 14 days when he arrives in Brussels, if he goes there for an official reason. So we also, yes, made some exceptions for the diplomatic community.
I just wonder how such lockdown policies were applied to a federal system like Germany, because the way you manage the capital process, for example, may not be the way things are done in the Flanders region, may not be the way things are managed in other parts of this cultural mosaic. What has been the guiding lines of Prime Minister Sophie Wilmès?
Yes, no, I know you know quite well Belgium. Belgium is not a big country, and actually the difference between the geographical and sociological difference between the different regions of Belgium are not so high as those maybe in Germany, in Spain, or in the US. And basically we saw that the number of cases or the number of deaths related to COVID in Belgium was more or less the same in the different regions, related of course to the size of the population of the respective regions. So another problem we had when the crisis hit Belgium is that we didn't have a fully operational government. We had elections and we are still in discussion to form a government. So we had a government which had only a minority in the parliament. So we decided the parliament gave special powers to the minority government to take measures related to the fight of the pandemic. And we established a special body, decision body actually, which relied on advice from the experts, from medical experts, but who put together the heads of the federal government and the heads of the regions.
You're talking about the coronavirus task force?
Yes. No, not the task force. It's the Committee of National Security, actually. It was
the National Security Committee?
Yes.
Or
exactly.
Council?
Council, yes. Yeah. And this one was tasked to take the decisions regarding the whole country. So the regions, the heads, the presidents of the regions of Belgium were together with the Prime Minister and with some federal minister in this body, and were deciding which measures would apply to the whole of Belgium. So the decisions were the same for the whole of the country. You didn't have specific measures applying to different parts, to different regions of Belgium, which is something new actually. Normally we don't work like that.
Absolutely. A couple of your colleagues have been guests on this program for the past few months, ever since the coronavirus started, be it the Canadian High Commissioner, be it the Israeli ambassador, be it the EU delegation head to Cameroon or the Swiss ambassador, and the list can go on. All tell me that coronavirus was a surprise to them and an embarrassment. And just like the French president, Emmanuel Macron said, it is the greatest sanitary challenge for a century for France. Mm-hmm. Is that the same sense and feeling in Belgium?
It was, yes, it has been. Of course, we are not yet there after First World War, when we had also a very big bout of flu, the Spanish flu at that time, which was terrible. I know many family members died, very old family members now, but at that time it was very, very, very difficult, just after the World War. But I would say since the Second World War, it must be the most, most difficult sanitary crisis, but also maybe one of the most difficult economic crises, because the impact has been so huge on our countries. I read that for Cameroon it may mean that the GDP will lower by 3.5% next year, but in Belgium it's 10.5%. The contraction of the economy next year. So it's a huge. It had a huge blow on the country. We have 170,000 people unemployed because of this crisis. So it had a very large impact on the economy as well and the everyday life of the people.
You are just going into the fallouts of the coronavirus on corporate Belgium, or if you like, business Belgium, or if you like, the economy. You just mentioned the unemployment fallout of roughly 170,000 people. The GDP to contrast next year by roughly 10%, and those are global trends which seem to match the realities of the forecast done by the International Monetary Fund. What has been the impact, particularly to the aviation and tourism sectors in Belgium, for example?
Yes, the tourism and aviation sectors have been among the most hardly hit sectors of the economy in Belgium, but probably in many other countries, most of the countries of the world, yes. Hotels now are allowed to reopen, but they are still completely empty. I've read that only half of the hotels in Brussels have reopened so far, and most of them only work with maybe 10% of the capacity being taken. So it's very difficult for them. Museums are empty, concerts have been cancelled, theaters are still closed. It's a catastrophe for this sector. Of course, when you talk about the aviation sector, you talk about the national air company, Brussels Airlines, which was also badly hit. They have actually grounded almost all their planes. They are not flying anymore to Cameroon. They want to restart soon, but at the moment they are still not doing it. And it has been the same with the rest of the world. Actually, they went completely in shutdown. It was not comparable with other companies in the world, but this company was completely shut down for 2 months now. They are restarting flying to some European destinations. There is a strong desire by people to start again having a normal life. But the financial situation of this company is very difficult. They had to lay off a fifth of their personnel. 1,000 people have been in the process of being laid off out of a total workforce of 5,000 people. And it's yet to be seen how they will recover from the crisis.
When you look at the impact of the coronavirus on the Belgian economy, the Americans will tell you that roughly 40 million people are already out of the job market. The French economy is officially in recession. How will you qualify it? A scar, a disaster, a seismic turnover? How will you qualify the impact on the economy? Catastrophic?
Yes, it's catastrophic, and socially as well. The economy, I think most of the big companies will survive, but many smaller companies, it will accelerate the trend maybe in some sectors, such as retail, for example, which was also already very difficult. More and more people are buying things on the internet, and I think it set this movement really in acceleration mode. So it's an economic crisis as well as a sanitary crisis, and it will take years to recover. I'm sure we will recover.
You mean to tell me that the small business enterprise sector is almost in a jeopardy?
Yes, it's more directly affected, more strongly affected, I think, than bigger chains and larger companies, yes, who can rely maybe on easier access to credit, who can maybe have some cash, spare cash. But I know many smaller enterprises, especially in, for example, in tourism, in restoration, bars, and so on. These are companies as well. SMEs, but these are companies as well, employing 5, 10, 20 people.
Broadly speaking, what has been the government response to rescue the social and economic fabrics which are terribly being attacked? Schools closed. In a moment we'll be talking about reopening.
Yes. They are reopened already. For the younger students, they are reopened. Universities will only reopen normally in September, but schools have reopened already. Yes, the Belgian government tried to help, so we created a special sort of temporary unemployment system. So we have benefits were paid to the employees who have been not laid off, but who had no work anymore, because you cannot, if you work in a factory, for example, you cannot work from home. And so the government basically takes over a large part of the wage of these people. So it's paid by...
Was there a package put in that? And was there an economic package put for that?
Yes.
If you go to Canada, for example, it was roughly $82 billion to rescue.
I cannot put a figure on the package. I cannot. There is not. It's just some measures that were taken.
Sector by sector?
No, they were actually not. There are some specific measures for specific sectors, but basically we took measures that were applied on all sectors. So these temporary unemployment benefits, some cancellation or postponement of taxes or social fees you have to pay, and so on, and also a VAT reduction on some products and some services. And these are more sector-oriented. So again, this VAT reduction was applied, for example, on services from restaurants, hotels, and bars, which were very strongly affected by the
well, you are part
crisis.
of the European Union. When you look at the search for a vaccine in particular to come out of this dysfunctional system in which we are found in, what has been the contribution from Belgium? I understand that the European Commission itself organized a fundraising which ended up with some plus 7 billion euros to mobilize global resources for a vaccine.
Yes, no, indeed, yes. Looking for a vaccine is not something a country can do alone, especially not countries of the size of European countries. It has to be a common goal by many countries, by many companies, pharmaceutical companies, and so on. Belgium is very strong regarding to pharmaceutical companies. We have very large international companies having very large factories or, units in Belgium, like GSK, which is British, Johnson & Johnson, which is American. We have some Swiss companies, French pharmaceutical companies having branches in Belgium. And all these branches in Belgium are actively involved in the common effort of these companies, mainly at the EU level to reach a vaccine. So I know that many parts of the research of the vaccines are taking place in Belgium, that Belgium is firmly in the coordinated approach to try to find a vaccine by the end of the year. And I know there are some positive developments, so we hope that a vaccine which will be partly produced in Belgium will be ready by the end of this year.
I just wonder where you are now with your reopening policy. Is it full-fledged after the National Security Council meeting of June 8th?
There was actually a National Security Committee meeting on June 8th, but there was one today as well. They just gave their explained their decisions today. Actually, they are not going much further than those that were announced on the 8th of June. But basically, regarding there are two things to watch: what may the people do in Belgium, and then the measures related to the borders. Regarding the people in Belgium, we still have to be very careful. There is no lockdown anymore. People may go out, may go shopping. The businesses reopen and so on. There is a recommendation to work from home if possible, but those who can't can go back to work. They are, of course, encouraged, not obliged, to wear masks, except in some sectors, such as the transport sector. Everybody going in the public sector transport or in a station has to wear a mask. In schools as well, all the students aged 12 and over have to wear a mask. The teachers as well have to wear a mask. But if you go shopping, you are not obliged to wear a mask. But we have very strong measures regarding the people you may meet. For example, you may now see people out from your family, from your home, but you may not see more, actually have close contacts with more than 10 people a week. So that means, why is this measure? Is because if a cluster is discovered somewhere, the people who are infected must be able to tell the health workers who come for them, okay, I saw these 10 people last week, and these people are the only ones which I may have infected.
Belgium is not living in Robinson Crusoe's or Daniel Defoe's Robinson Crusoe's island. You are part of this global system today. You have seen the barrage of politics, especially against the World Health Organization and their management of the COVID-19. What is the official position of Belgium vis-à-vis the response of the World Health Organization, and how have you engaged internationally to help other countries?
Yes, regarding the World Health Organization, yes, after the US announced the suspension of their aid to the World Health Organization, the Belgian government issued a statement saying that the World Health Organization so far has done a good job regarding the crisis. They have been essential in coordinating the efforts and raising awareness, helping the people infected by the virus. And maybe there will certainly be some time to make an analysis of what went well and what went wrong, but it was not yet the time. So we will do that later. And at the moment, we are still fully supporting the World Health Organization, and I'm sure we'll continue. We decided to increase our financial aid to this organization 1 month ago, and we are considering a second voluntarily.
By how much?
It was 2 million euros last month, and we are considering a second supplementary voluntarily contribution of 2 million euros. I don't know if it has been decided yet, but it's in the process. And we encourage other countries to continue supporting the World Health Organization.
You are the Belgian ambassador to Cameroon, and I've heard statements from other diplomatic missions. The French announced a package of roughly 7 billion CFA francs to support the national response. The Canadians have a package of 5 million Canadian dollars. That should be roughly 2.2 billion CFA francs. The Swiss redirected their humanitarian assistance of roughly 3 billion CFA francs, and the Chinese, the Jack Ma Foundation. What have been your assistance?
Yes, it's always a problem when I'm asked this question in Cameroon. When I was posted in Congo, it was a different story, but Cameroon is not one of the priority countries of our bilateral aid. So when it comes to special packages, we always give the priority to these countries which are considered most in need. Actually, we help mostly least developed countries, and which Cameroon is not part of.
Countries around the world are known by their best trademarks. If you take the French, for example, they will tell you that their trademark is maybe baguette. I just give an example like that. If you go to America, maybe one of their selling points may be the burger or hamburger. If you go to Brazil, probably they will tell you of samba and football, which is like a religion in Spain. What do you consider to be the best trading mark of Belgium, and how COVID-19 has negatively impacted that?
The best trademark we have in Belgium is our national football team, the Red Devils. And they've been strongly impacted because they cannot train anymore, because they cannot play anymore, because the current generation of Belgian football players is very good, and we had hoped to be the stars of the European tournament that has to take place this year in Europe, and we have to wait until next year. So yes, the impact has been huge for the players themselves, but for the public as well, because we had very strong expectations, and we are all all hoping that they will still be very good next year at the European Soccer Cup.
And with that, we conclude the interview. The Belgian ambassador to Cameroon, and maybe if you authorize me officially to say it, at the same time, the special envoy of the Belgian government to the Great Lakes region. Thank you very much indeed for being guest on GLOBEWATCH.
Thank you very much, Charles. It was a pleasure to work with you for these 4 years in Cameroon.
And very soon we will be parting. This should be our last interview.
I suppose, probably, yes.
You're welcome.
Thank you.